Hey everyone, Dr.Arland Hill here with Harvest Hills Ranch and with Daisy Mae, who's welcoming me back home today. It has been a long day. We started really early this morning. Today has been a cow processing day. We left the ranch at around 7 o'clock this morning and just getting back. And I wanted to share my experience with you today. Today has been a real informative series of events for me today in terms of processing and what happens with cow processing. We've known a lot of this, but I got to see it all firsthand today, and I think this is insightful for me to share with you because a lot of the things that I'm going to say to you in the rest of this video, you as the consumer probably aren't aware of, and I want to make you aware of them because they should be key consideration points when you're deciding where you're going to buy your beef from. Now, of course, we do grass-fed, grass-finished, but what you have to consider is that we can go through all the process, the 2 to 3 year process of getting that animal to the processing stage, and then that process can be literally ruined by bad effects at the processor, or the processor not doing things that we want done to the way that we feel that that product should be brought to you as the consumer. So let me just share a couple of things with you that you may not realize here. So first of all, when we took 3 cows today, I was actually able to see all of these animals through the entire process. I was literally standing there on the floor as they were going through or working with these animals. Compare that to a conventional model, more of an industrial model, which we know that there's been some concerns with of recently, and you're not going to see anything unless you're actually in that assembly line. And it truly is an assembly line. Typically on these larger industrial scale types of operations, you've literally got hundreds of people that are involved in this process. I dealt with 3 guys today that were taking care of our animals, and literally we had conversation there. So I was able to talk to these guys as needed to, or as I had questions that came up. Also, as we were looking at, once the animal had been processed, and then we went into the part where the inspector comes in and inspects the animals, I was literally able to stand there with the inspector and look at the animal, have conversation with them, for them to be able to point things out and to show me things that made the animal pass inspection, what it is specifically that they were looking for. So the whole USDA process that allows us to process these animals, to package the meat, and then bring it off farm to you or to ship it to you. This is all what we were seeing take place in the facility today. From there, once the inspector has checked off on everything, then that animal can move, the carcass of that animal can move from where they process at into the coolers. And literally, we can see the tags that are put on there. Every one of the carcasses for our animals had its own personal unique tag put on it. So if I wanted to go back into that cooler, let's say I wanted to walk back into that cooler a week from now, I can walk right up to my animal and I know it is exactly my animal that is getting processed and that I'm getting back. They're not processing other animals at the same time. It is only our animals that are getting cut in, or cut into the different cuts and packaged up. So there's no possibility of confusion that we may not be getting our product back. We are absolutely getting our product back. Here's something else I learned today that's unique, that is extremely relevant to the final product that ends up on your plate. And that is, when you look at these animals just like humans have variances. There's differences in them. And when we look at hanging these animals, the time frame that an animal hangs, we hang these animals because we want to age the meat for one reason. We also want to balance out the amount of fat to meat ratio on these animals. And we don't want too much shrinkage on these animals, if you will. The longer that animal hangs, potentially the more shrinkage there might be, and we might not get that good fat marbling to finish ratio on the meat. So with these animals, given that we're dealing with a small facility, and I'll come back and talk to that in a minute, this smaller facility allows us to be able to see, or to allow these animals to hang not by a standard protocol. If it's an animal with less fat on it, we're going to hang that animal for a shorter period of time. If it's an animal with more fat on it, we can handle a little more shrinkage on that. Then we're gonna let that animal hang for a longer period of time. Point being on this is that the animal hangs or ages, if you will, for what is considered optimal for that animal. Now, the processor that we are dealing with, and this is very important, this applies the same as to our chicken operation. This is not an individual who is, or a facility that is a large scale facility. This is a facility that handles, as I was told today, 10 to 12 cows per day is pretty much all they process compared to literally the hundreds that go through the industrial facilities. So over the course of a week, they may be handling somewhere between 40 and 50 animals. There's going to be some variance from day to day, plus they're handling other animals as well. There's some pig processing that takes place in this particular facility. Point being on this is that we're not talking about hundreds and hundreds of animals going through. We're talking about a smaller facility where there is attention to detail being taken on these animals, and the owner of this facility, as I learned through our conversation today, is actually has a ranch himself, and the primary reason for having this facility was that they wanted to be able to process their animals in their own facility, have complete control over it, and that attention that they're putting towards their own animals is being passed on into our animals, and we can literally go back through this entire process and check over the whole process, ask questions. There was never a point at any time as I really got into working with the processor today and got into the details that they didn't answer my questions right on the spot and give me an answer I felt comfortable with. Also want to show you just something else here. Leah and I took the time. We've been bringing you guys grass-fed, grass-finished beef for a long enough period of time now that we see what sells, where our strongest cuts are at, and so when these animals get cut into the different cuts, sometimes you may cut a steak out of an area, or you may cut a roast out of an area. Well, we've looked at what you as our customer have been purchasing, and we've decided, or now we have enough information that we're actually going to be able to go in and tell our processors, these are the cuts that our customers prefer, and we'll have more of those cuts on hand for you to be able to purchase as the customer. So I literally had the opportunity today to just shoulder to shoulder with the owner of the facility go through our cut sheets and make sure that these cuts are going to be exactly to what you're looking for as the consumer and what we know your interest has been in regards to what you've purchased in the past. One other final point that I think that I found this interesting, there was a comment that was made through the processing today, and it was about using an antimicrobial, an antibacterial, so that there wasn't potentially any bacterial concerns or any contamination anywhere. And I asked the processor, I said, what specifically are you using on that? And the answer I was given was water and vinegar. So nothing that any of us would have any concerns about, but yet also a very effective antibacterial. So point being on this, guys, the reason I wanted to bring this video to you is because the entire process today, from the time that the Cowboys showed up and we loaded the trailer and I rode with the Cowboys to the processor and back and had conversation, had a good trip over and back, and then had a good experience with our processor. This is our second time processing with them, and we'll certainly be continuing to use them in the foreseeable future. I wanted to share with you what my observations were and give you insight that you're otherwise just not going to see, and that is completely contrary to what takes place in larger scale facilities. It really is about when you work with us as a farm. We do the work here on the farm to bring you the products that you think you're getting. That was our mission. That was our promise to you, that we would be transparent and do that. But to fully do that, we also have to be transparent on the processing side as well, and this is just simply an attempt to do that for you. So with that being said, I'm going to cut this off. Listen, always appreciate you coming back to the channel. Share this information with somebody. If you like it, hit it with a thumbs up, and make sure that you visit harvesthillsranch.com. Keep in mind, we've got a couple of new options for you. You can always go and see where our delivery sites are at, but if you can't make a delivery site, look for those shipping dates. We'd be happy to get some product shipped out to you as well. And Look forward to seeing you in future videos, guys. Take care. I'm Dr. Arland Hill.